So now on to the reason you're all here. We have a terrific program in store for you. Here's a little background about today's presenter. Bob Waldman has produced, created, and written programs for A&E, CBS, CNBC, Food Network, History Channel, Investigation Discovery, and TV Land, to name but a few. Bob has also presented many programs here at the library, including tributes to Steve Allen, Sid Caesar, Jerry Lewis, and Nat King Cole. But today, Bob is back with a special program that is a tribute to Bob's father, Myron Waldman, whose career in animation spanned over 7 decades. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Bob Waldman.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you everybody for being here and in Zoom land. Thanks. Every program that Jeff mentioned is a labor of love for me, but this one truly is a little bit even more than that because it's about my dad. Now, sometime in the mid-'60s, my dad was drawing picture after picture of this character. This is Fearless Fly. And a little boy, about 4 years old, was watching him as Dad drew picture after picture. And finally, the little boy said, "Is that all you do all day?" And Dad said, "Yep." And the little boy said, "Well, my daddy works." And so, but the thing is that what my dad did was special. If you opened other parents' briefcases, you might see legal briefs, or spreadsheets, or blueprints. Well, if you opened my dad's briefcase, stars came out. Popeye, Betty Boop, Superman, Casper the Friendly Ghost. And Dad brought all of these characters to life with just a pencil. Well, not just a pencil. There was his incredible imagination, a never-ending sense of fun and mischief. And this was all combined with a sweetness and a gentleness and decency that made him a rarity as an artist. He was a genius who was also a mensch. Now, Dad was born in Brooklyn, April 23rd, 1908. And it was also the birth date of another genius. And as it happened when Dad was in high school, the teacher said on April 23rd, "Does anybody know whose birthday it is today?" And Dad rose his hand, stood up, and he said, "Yes, mine and Shakespeare's." So he had his first art lessons from his brother Max, who taught him how to sculpt mashed potatoes into the shape of a donkey. And then, but actually Dad started drawing when he was 4, and he copied figures off this very beer stein, which is still in the family today. And he never stopped drawing. By the time he was at New Utrecht High School in Brooklyn, he was doing the art editor for the school magazine. And in 1925, when he was only 17, he got his first job in animation for the summer, working in the studio that did the Mutt and Jeff animated cartoons. They liked Dad so much, they asked him to quit school and join the studio. But he said, "No, I want to finish school and I want to go to art school." And sure enough, he became the only one of his brothers and sisters to go to college, Pratt Institute, class of 1929. And under the picture in the yearbook, it said he'll have that newspaper comic strip yet. But he used to tell us that every year it was a struggle to get together the money to pay for the school. And at that time, the tuition at Pratt was $200. But what Dad did was he raised the money by drawing ads for a Garda company. There's one on the left. And he also drew pictures for the Yellow Pages, which had illustrations drawn at that time, although he refused to draw a picture of a little girl hugging her daddy's wooden leg. He also drew cartoons for the Long Beach Life newspaper, and he had a comic strip in there, too, called Rubberneck Arms. He also drew the political cartoons. Whenever there was an advertiser who wouldn't pay for any of the ads, the editor of the paper would have Dad draw a political cartoon criticizing the advertiser. He was also working as a counselor at a camp upstate in New York called Mohaf, Camp Mohaf, where he would draw the scenery for the camp's carnivals. In fact, that cow he's milking, or seeming to be milking, he drew that too. I didn't realize till yesterday that it was a cardboard cutout that Dad had drawn. Well, the camp is what led Dad into animation. The camp's nurse was a next-door neighbor back home in Brooklyn of Dave Fleischer, who was the brother of Max Fleischer and the director of most of the studio's cartoons. And she asked Dad, can I give some of these pictures that you've drawn to Dave Fleischer? And Dad was a big fan of the Out of the Inkwell cartoons that the studio had been doing. And he said, sure. Well, Dave Fleischer liked what he saw. In the fall of 1930, my dad joined Fleischer Studios, that's him all the way on the extreme right in the top row, as an inker. And an inker is the person that traces the animator's drawings on sheets of celluloid called cells. And those are painted and then photographed, and that's what becomes the final product in the film. And here's Dad talking about joining Fleischer's and his quick rise there. And my mom makes a appearance too.
You started as an opaker. I happened to be very fast, so then they promoted me to inking. Fleischers were the only studio that paid overtime. So I learned quickly that way too, and they were nice to me, the people. They had to promote people very fast, and I was lucky, and they liked what they saw, and after 6 months, I was animating. Of course, they give you the crowd scenes to do because nobody else wanted to do them. And it finally worked out. Inside of 2 years, I became a head animator.
Head animators were really the directors, actually.
Dave Fleischer was credited with directing every single Fleischer cartoon. And he definitely had a hand in the direction of the cartoons, but a lot of the work, the day-to-day work of directing the cartoons was left to what they referred to there as the head animators.
They had to be responsible for, approving the recordings because, you had to have a dialogue, recorded dialogue first, and then Myron would map out the whole picture. They would be known as thumbnail sketches.
From 1931, here's my dad's first contract that he received as an animator. And also from 1931, here is the very first cartoon he got a screen credit on. This is By the Light of the Silvery Moon from 91 years ago.
By the light of the silvery moon, I want to spoon to the honey I'll croon, love's moon, honeymoon, keep a shining in June. Your silvery beams will bring love dreams, we'll be cuddling soon, we'll cuddle soon by the silvery moon.
Sorry I'm late, Saul. I was out with a star last night.
See you in the morning. I reckon we'll have to park. Oh, yeah? Hey! Hey!
Wise guy.
Hey, hey, hey. Keep your eye on the little bouncing ball. Each little string will make you sing if you follow the tune of the silvery moon. By the light of the silvery moon, I want to spoon. Honey, I'll spoon honeymoon. Your silvery beams will bring love dreams. We'll be cuddling soon.
We'll be cuddling soon.
By the silvery moon. By the silvery moon.
My dad found out where it was going to be playing in Brooklyn, and my grandmother and all her friends came to see my dad's first screen credit and cheered when it came on the screen. 2 years later, when he was made a head animator, as he mentioned before, he was assigned to do the 10th of the Popeye cartoons, and it was called, he was the Fleischer Studios' newest star, Popeye the Sailor. And Can You Take It is Popeye at his toughest. In fact, some animation historians consider this the cartoon where Popeye's character is established from then on for every other Popeye cartoon. It's really violent, but here it is from 1934, Can You Take It? Well, by 1937, Popeye was the biggest star in cartoons. He was even more popular than Mickey Mouse. But the star only did a handful of Popeye cartoons on which he got screen credit. He did a lot of them uncredited. But the star he worked with the most at Fleischer's was Betty Boop. He did more Betty Boop cartoons than any other animator. Now here's Dad talking about the evolution of Betty Boop. And the fact is, she started as, evolution is the correct word, because she started out as another species.
She was a dog. And when I say dog, it's the animal. She had long ears. What bothered me, that her eyes were a block apart, you know? You could drive a train. We gradually pulled them closer, and it worked. And she didn't always have that pout when she was in a pleasant situation. So we started doing it. We never used her in profile, because it was horrible. But Pudgy, her little dog, that's all my creation.
Yes, Dad created Betty Boop's little dog, Pudgy. Dad was a dog owner. There he is with one of his many dogs. And this is what's called a model chart. You saw them before with Popeye and Olive Oyl. A model chart was done by the head animator, and in this case it was Dad, with his own creation, Pudgy. And this would be a guide of what the character should look like, the proportions, and how to draw the character that the other animators would use as well. Well, Dad's favorite cartoon of Betty Boop was one where Pudgy wasn't part of it. It was called A Language All My Own. It's when Betty visits Japan. And here it is. It's from 1935. It's A Language All My Own. Before Dad animated Language on My Own, he went up to the International House at Columbia University and checked with the Japanese students there to make sure that none of Betty's gestures with the fan were in any way obscene or vulgar. And so it was, he really did his research on this one. Well, by the late 1930s, Dad specialized in what was derogatorily called by the other animators, cartoons, sweet, sentimental, cute cartoons, but they could laugh all they want. Out of the 4 Fleischer cartoons that were nominated for Academy Awards, Dad animated 2 of them, and he got credit on, uncredited on Popeye Meets Sinbad the Sailor. From 1937, here's one of those Oscar-nominated films. This one is Educated Fish, and we finally go to Technicolor.
H-I-J-K, L-M-N-O-P, L-M-N-O-P-Q-R-S-T, U-V-W-X-Y-Z. La 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 la, U-V-W-X-Y-Z.
Come back here. is The Tale of a Fish by A. Finn. After which we will sing our scale. Quiet. Apple. Thanks. And now we have our new lesson. Now the lesson for today is hooky, which you must not play. Isn't this a fishing pole?
Yes, that is a fishing pole.
Isn't this a reel that winds?
Yes, that is a reel that winds. Fishing pole and reel that winds.
This is no fish story, dears. You'd better listen with both ears. Isn't this a line so strong?
Yes, that is a line so strong.
Isn't this a worm that squirms?
Yes, that is a worm that squirms.
Fishing pole, reel that winds, line so strong and worm that squirms. To the moral now we come. You'll see the point if you're not dumb. Isn't this a hook so sharp?
Yes, that is a hook so sharp.
Isn't this a frying pan?
Goodness gracious, frying pan. Fishing pole, reel that winds, line so strong, worm that squirms, hook so sharp and frying pan.
Don't forget what you've been taught. If you play hooky, you'll get caught. Polycarp, come here.
Yes, ma'am.
What's this? What's this? You don't know. Come with me. Now stay in the closet until you know your lesson.
No more pistols, no more books, no more teacher Jackie look.
What do you say, Cookie? What do you say? Play a little hooky? You little cutie pie. Oh, baby. Take it away!
Disney won the Academy Award that year, and pretty much all those years of the 30s for animated cartoons. But what Disney was doing for the entire animation industry was raising the level of it. In fact, in 1938, the Fleischer Studio moved from its headquarters in New York City to Miami, and where the fathers of Miami were hoping that Miami would become a rival to Hollywood. And moving with his parents from Brooklyn to Miami, Dad made the most of it. He bought a brand new Packard convertible, and the Florida papers often covered what the showbiz newcomers were doing in town. Here's an article about their Halloween party, costume party, in which the animators dressed up as the characters they were animating, who they usually brought to life with their pencils. And that's my dad in the bottom center as Raggedy Andy. And by the way, he hosted the party too at his house. And because of the popularity of Snow White, the Fleischer Studio got the green light to do their own feature, and it was Gulliver's Travels. That was the first one. And my dad is not credited on that film, but he did draw the scene of Gulliver pulling the ships. And the picture did okay. I mean, it was no Snow White, but the songs, which were done by the songwriting team of Leo Robin and Ralph Ranger, who wrote such songs as Thanks for the Memory just the year before, made it to the hit parade. Glenn Miller had a big hit with the song Faithful Forever from the film. The picture did well enough that they got the green light to do a second feature at Fleischer's, and it was Mr. Bug Goes to Town. And at this time, Dad got a really great credit. Look at that second animator listed as directors of animation. That's quite the billing. And he deserved it. He was as good as any one of the Disney animators, the great Disney animators. And he knew the secret. And here's him telling a little bit about it.
I do remember one where Seymour Nightel came over. He said, "Who did that animation?" Thinking it was one of the Coast guys that came in. I said, "I did." I said, "Yeah, I just use more drawings like they do, you know."
There was something about West Coast and East Coast animators that, never the twain shall meet, kind of.
Good luck, they could have it. Somebody said to me, "Aren't you jealous? Look at the lines around the Roxy Theater where Disney's picture was playing." I said, "No, I just got a new contract with more money." That's why should be mad.
Well, this is a production still from Mr. Bug Goes to Town, and that's Dave Fleischer in the middle. They're looking at one of the character models of Honeybee, who is one of the main characters in the cartoon. And that's Dad on the right, and his friend and fellow animator Graham Place on the left. The cartoon had a musical score by some true greats. It was Frank Lesser and Hoagie Carmichael. Can you imagine? And the studio was instructed, all the animators were instructed to dress up for when Frank Lesser arrived at the studio. So they were all dressed up, and here comes Frank off the red eye, the DC-3 red eye from Los Angeles, and he's unshaven and wearing sneakers. So that was, Dad always loved that story. And the movie didn't do so well. The war had broken out, or it was in Europe, and the picture opened on December 5th, 1941, just 2 days before Pearl Harbor. So talk about bad timing. But around the same time, in 1941, the studio went to work on 17 of the greatest cartoons ever made by any studio. Superman. These are some of the model charts. This is Clark Kent, and the way to draw Clark Kent. We used to have that model chart. Oh my gosh, it would be worth so much now. And here's Superman. the way to draw him. And Dad was head animator on 4 of the 17 cartoons. And this one is his favorite. This is from 1941. It's $1 Billion Limited.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird.
It's a plane! It's Superman!
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound, this amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel, Superman. Possessing remarkable physical strength, Superman fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice, disguised as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter, Clark Kent.
Sorry I can't go with you, Lois, but I have another story to cover.
Oh, that's all right, Clark. I'll see you in the office.
Like a job for Superman.
Superman!
Uncanny how Superman turns up just when you need him.
I didn't even get a chance to thank him.
Well, the Supermans were among the last cartoons Dad did before he enlisted in the Army. He was, during the war, he was in the Army Signal Corps, where he did the animated sequences for Frank Capra, the director Frank Capra's legendary Why We Fight series of films that were designed to build morale among the public and servicemen. While he was in the service, Dad also became a published author and writing and drawing what's now considered one of the first graphic novels. Eve was a love story without words, all told with Dad's pen and ink drawings. And to the end of his life, Dad was very proud of the fact that the book was featured in the window of Scribner's on Fifth Avenue with lots of copies, and he got tremendous reviews for it. Even Walter Winchell in his column gave it his highest praise, which was orchids at that point. And unfortunately, though, the book's publisher went bankrupt the same year. but enough of the books came out. And then it was republished in the 1990s. So there are copies still available. Now, once Dad got out of the Army in 1945, he went to Famous Studios. Famous Studios was basically, Paramount had reorganized the Fleischer Studios as Famous Studios. And not only Dad was animating again, he also made that Pratt Institute prediction that he would someday have a newspaper strip come true. In 1946, he joined forces with a radio writer producer named Steve Carlin, who was producing a radio show for kids for NBC called Happy the Humbug. And they turned it into a newspaper comic strip that ran for 2.5 years, featured in the New York Post in New York and 60 other papers. And it was considered, or hailed as the most appropriate comic strip for young children. And there's Dad and Steve Carlin with Happy on the left-hand side, and that's from an article in Newsweek magazine from May of 1948. And that was a very special month in our family's history, because that was when, well, let me go back a little bit. When Dad got out of the service, and he was introduced to a pretty young new employee of the studio named Rosalie Sokolov. And Rosalie used my dad as her own personal Zagat's guide to New York City. Dad was really loved restaurants and going out to eat, and he knew every good place in town. So Rosalie would come to him and go, "Myron, I have a date tonight, and we really want to go to a good French restaurant. Could you recommend one?" And he would say, "Yeah, Les Pyrenees on West 51st Street is terrific," things like that. Well, Dad's friend and fellow animator, Nick DeFury, thought that Rosalie and Myron should go out with each other. So he set up a lunch for the three of them. And it was at that lunch that Mom and Dad clicked. And like a week or two later, Dad asked Mom out for the first time. And at the end of May 1948, they got married. And this is pictures from their wedding. Now, Dad wanted to do the pose on the right is Dad wanted to do one of those turn of the century, formal poses, like with the guy with it. So that's a gag shot over there. And also in 48 was the time Dad was assigned to do the second Casper the Ghost cartoon. These are layout sketches that Dad did. These are the original thumbnail layout drawings. And Casper had only been in one cartoon previous to this one, and he looked a lot different. So Dad was responsible for what Casper became. In fact, here's another drawing, another model chart by from 1955, and you can see Casper looks the way Casper would always look from then on. And right now, here's a cartoon from 1953. I wish I could pass out 3D goggles to you, and we had the 3D print, because this was the only cartoon Paramount did in 3D. And you'll see it's credited as a stereo tune. It's called Blue Moon, and when my two daughters were little, this was their favorite. So here from 1953 is Casper the Friendly Ghost in Blue Moon.
Casper the Friendly Ghost, the friendliest ghost you know. Though grown-ups might cover him with fright, the children all love him so. He always says hello, and he's really glad to meet you wherever he may go. He's kind to every living creature. Grown-ups don't understand why children love him the most, but kids all know that he loves them so. Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Gosh, I wish people wouldn't be scared of me.
Here, folks, see the wonders of the moon. Only 10 cents. Here, folks, see the wonders of the moon. Only 10 cents.
May I have a look, mister?
Sure, Sonny. Step right... Huh? A ghost!
Gee, the man in the moon looks friendly. Golly, I'll go up and visit him. Gosh, there's no man in the moon. Nothing but rocks and holes. Oh, I'm tired.
He's a giant. He's a monster. Let's capture him for the king.
Golly, moon people. They're real cute. I wonder what they're gonna do with me.
His Celestial Majesty, the ruler of the moon, King Luna.
Who be you, monster? And from whence comest thou?
Your Majesty, I'm Casper the Friendly Ghost, and I come from the planet Earth.
Bah! The planet Earth. A likely story if ever I heard one.
But King Luna, I do want to be friendly.
The monster's got me! Guards! Guards! Put the monster in the royal dungeon!
Gee, even the moon people are afraid of me.
The tree men are attacking! The tree men are attacking!
To the walls! Defend the city! Let me down, you coward, and fight like a man.
Gosh, they need help.
Of my people, I knight thee, Sir Friend Casper.
Casper the Friendly Ghost, the friendliest ghost you know. So grown-ups might look at him with fright, the children all love him so. Casper the Friendly Ghost, he wouldn't be bad or mean.
In the 50s, Dad and Casper often appeared on television together. Do you remember the show The Merry Mailman? It aired here in New York. Well, Dad was a guest on it at least twice. And the first time, he couldn't even get it. Ray Heatherton, who was the Merry Mailman, sort of pushed Dad out of the screen. And all you could see was my dad's hand. So the second time he was on, Dad hooked his leg around the easel, so there was no way Ray Heatherton, the Merry Mailman, could push him out of the screen. So what was it like having Dad as, a cartoonist, as a father? Well, it was fun. I mean, Dad loved to draw, not just for his work. Here is, every year my folks would have a New Year's Eve party, and my dad would draw a menu for it, Cafe Rosalie. This is from 1964. And with a few gags thrown in. And on the right are the birthday cards he used to make up for our mom, and featuring Dad and my brother and I. And those are from 70 years ago. Then the first one on top, and the second one is only from 67 years ago. Here's another card that he did for their anniversary. He's chasing my mom. And one of the most frequent questions I get about Dad is if he ever worked for Disney or if he worked on the Looney Tunes. Well, the answer to Disney is a definite no. Dad, or as Dad would have said, I wouldn't work for that anti-Semite bastard for $1 million. That's what he thought of Disney. As for Warner Brothers, however, he never worked directly on the Looney Tunes, but in 1964, ABC was just about to put on a new show called The Porky Pig Show. By 1964, Warner Brothers had just disbanded their animation unit. So they went to Hal Seeger Studios in New York, which my dad was associated with. Hal had been a great friend of my dad's starting in 1937 when he was a junior animator at Fleischer Studios and looked up to my dad as a mentor. Well, the studio, as I said, ABC hired Hal's company to do the opening for the Porky Pig Show. So this is the only time my dad animated Warner Brothers cartoon characters.
Who's our favorite TV star? Who comes on with a wham? Who's got the laughiest show by far?
Porky Pig?
Our favorite ham! When the music starts, you wanna tap your toe. You feel like dancing a jig. Swing around in a circle and do-si-do. Time to watch Porky Pig. Oh, that Porky Pig. He's the barnyard's Mr. Big. Now promenade all around the room and find your yourself a good seat. The shows are gonna be starting soon. Time to watch. Time to watch. Porky Pig.
That's me, folks.
Dad's career continued into the 70s and 80s, doing mostly commercials. There were lots of animated commercials starting from the 50s on. And also in the late 80s, he started drawing classic scenes from the cartoons he had done that were made into limited edition lithographs, or what they call G-clays, by animation art galleries. This is one of the pages in a catalog of some of the works he was doing then. Also in 1997, ASIFA, which is the International Animation Society, presented Dad with their Lifetime Achievement Award. And it was one of the most thrilling moments for our entire family. Now, to the end of his life, Dad was very proud of the work, yet humble. Now here he is, along with Mom, summing up his career.
Animation was not a one-man job, you know. You had very good background artists, and we had terrific musical directors. You laid out a picture, it was like laying out a musical.
He said what made him such a success, and when I say success, I don't mean money-wise, I mean inner contentment is success as far as I'm concerned. And he said that what made it so good for him was that he loved his work. He just loved it, really. Till the very end, he just loved drawing.
Dad passed away on February 4th, 2006. He was 97. And as he said, he couldn't complain. He had a long run. And his creations are everywhere. Just last Friday, I was in Hawaii, in Honolulu, and it was the 16th anniversary of his passing. And I was in a vintage Aloha shirt shop. And as I was paying, I saw this. With Dad's creation, Pudgy. So really, he really was everywhere. And I want to thank you all for joining me today in remembering my dad and spending a few more, at least another hour with him and Mom, and the amazing work that he did still lives on. Now, if you'd like to learn more about him, one place you can go is lifeposts.com. And you can go online to this site, and I put together for LifePosts a online virtual exhibit of Dad's life and his work. So if you want to see, and it features a lot of pictures and even more memorabilia than I featured today. And if you're interested in books about the animation industry, and some of them where Dad is quoted, here's a few that are available by request through the Nassau Library System. Most recent is Wild Minds, and it was recently released in paperback and recommended by the New York Times. It's an excellent book. My favorite of the bunch is the one in the middle, Leonard Maltin's Of Mice and Magic, because you can get the histories of all the great cartoon studios in that one. And the third book, The Fleischer Story, was really the first book about the Fleischer Studios. And it features wonderful pictures. A little disorganized, but it features wonderful pictures. And there's a new book that will be coming out hopefully in the next year by an animation historian called G. Michael Dobbs, Mike Dobbs. And that will be a history of the Fleischer Studio. And Mike has dedicated the book to my dad. So thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And any questions? Yes?
Well, just one sec, Carol. I'm just going to make sure everybody. So, just one sec, Carol. So, first of all, thank you very much. Let's have another round of applause here for Bob Waldman.
Thanks.
I really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jeff.
Really enjoyed that program.
Yeah.
I know it's a special program for you. So, I just want to make sure if folks here have questions, we have some on Zoom, on chat, but I just want to make sure that they can hear your question.
It's not a question. I was in my friend's car last week, and she has Betty Boop placemats on her car. So to this day, Betty Boop lives.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's great. So we do have some questions here in the chat that I'll read out to you.
Okay.
Let's see. This is from Howard. Great presentation. Why did the early 30s cartoon characters rock back and forth? I did not see that post 1935 to today.
Dave Fleischer. Dad always said that Dave Fleischer had this mandate that all the characters should keep moving and they should keep bouncing all the time. And so that was why it was just a Fleischer trademark, that they would be bouncing all the time. And it would be a real pain in the neck for the animators just to, because they had to do, these drawings were done one by one. In those days, it was called full animation as opposed to the 50s, where limited animation. Now, the difference between full animation and limited is, full animation is every one of these moves is animated. Limited animation, they do this one, they do this one, and then maybe another one. So it's quicker. And if you notice in the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, there's not a lot of movement. Watch a Flintstones and watch the one movement that you see all the time is Fred and Barney's eyes blinking. That's all there is. Barney, that's the animation of those. That's why.
Great. Another question here. This is from AJ. Terrific job, Bob. Easily the most enjoyable of all your many presentations.
Wow, AJ, thanks.
I found it an interesting turn of events, maybe even fate, that your father's decision to finish school instead of taking the offer to do illustrating work led to a summer job and meeting someone who would introduce him to Max Fleischer. Can You Take It appears to be the basis for many kung fu flicks where the hero takes on dozens of henchmen and flattens them all by himself. Again, if anybody here in the audience, you have questions, just please raise your hand. I'll be happy to come right over. I'm going to continue through the questions here.
There's one comment I'd like to make about what he
Sure, go ahead.
What AJ mentioned at the beginning of his comment. That was a big decision for my dad's family, for him to go to college. He was the only one of his siblings to go. And in fact, my Uncle Herb, his older brother by about a year and a half, quit school, quit high school, so he could go work in the family. They were in the textile business to keep that running because they were losing, with Dad going to college, they were losing, someone who could have also helped out. So my uncle sacrificed his own high school education, graduating from high school, so that my dad could go to art school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's see, another question here. Did he ever face production code or censorship issues?
Yeah. Yes, he did face some. He got into, I think, trouble with, he did a cartoon called Boylesque in the early days at Fleischer Studios. And they had to cover the, I think, a cow's udders. Stuff like that. Some of those cartoons are so, they're so on PC now. A hippo comes in to sit in the first bench, and everybody, once the hippo sits down, everybody else disappears. Or it's like a seesaw. When the hippo sits down, everybody else falls off as they go up, or they fall off as it goes. It's like a seesaw. Yeah. So yeah, he did face it.
Yeah,
stuff
certainly
like
of
that.
their time, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Another comment here, Casper was my favorite cartoon. I had a Casper doll too, wish I still had it.
Mm-hmm.
Revisiting these childhood cartoons is so uplifting and sentimental. Hearing the backstories is bringing more depth and appreciation, endearing them.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Endearing them to my heart even more. Thank you for doing this program. I know others who will love seeing the recording who were at work during this time. Excellent presentation.
Well, I would bring in, I remember bringing into probably first grade for show and tell, the soundtrack. See, the animators would get discs of what the voices and stuff, and they would use that as their guide as they were animating the scenes. The other thing, and so I brought in this one, and it doesn't make sense when you heard it, because it was just like, gee, I hope they're friends with me. And then there would be nothing. Oh, here's the little Dutch boy. So it didn't make sense that way, but because the music and effects weren't there. What was interesting, that one of the prime instruments beside a pencil for an animator was a mirror. And it would be right next to Dad's desk. And when Dad would be having to animate dialogue, he would go like this. And then he would then draw the mouth movements he made. So a mirror was was one of the primary instruments besides a pencil for animators.
Let's see, another couple of questions and comments. Did you inherit his drawing talents?
I can only draw cars and television cameras. And a little character that I've drawn since I was 7 years old, and I used it when I was in college and studying film and TV for my storyboards. It's a little character called Rick, and I've used to draw him for my kids when they were little too. Yep.
Another comment here. Thank you. What a wonderful human being. What a wonderful artist. And then another question.
Is that from my brother?
That's from Abby.
Yes, here's a question here.
Yeah.
Jeff. Wait till he comes with the microphone.
You ever heard of BTV? That in the morning they show these tuning the tune, I think, and you ever hear about that on BTV?
Yes. My friend Michael, who I think might be watching in California, always texts me and he says, hey, one of your dad's cartoons is on. And I always miss it because it's on before I wake up. Yeah, what time is it? 7. I don't know how Michael's seeing it if it's on at 4 in LA.
Let's see, another question here. Sorry if I missed it, but was Betty Boop and Popeye and Casper his creations, or were they someone else's and he animated those characters?
Yes, they were all other people's creations. However, Betty Boop's little dog, Pudgy, was my dad's creation. He created Pudgy. He had 2 different dogs, and there was one that was more realistic looking with longer hair, but they went with the short-haired dog, which I think is cuter.
And just one sec, another comment here. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. These animations were a very memorable part of my life and are just as vibrant and enjoyable as they were then. Such a lovely presentation by Bob. And we have another question here.
My laptop, and one who did Betty Boop was Mae Questel. She acted, I think, Funny Girl in National Lampoon's Christmas. You probably remember that.
Oh, yeah, Mae Questel. Yeah, I had a chance to meet her. Actually, twice. I was at the last recording session ever done with the original cast of the Popeye. Jack Mercer, Jackson Beck as Bluto, and Mae Questel as Olive Oyl. It was for a Burlington Sheets commercial that my dad animated. He said, hey, you want to come? I was home from college. And he says, hey, you probably want to come to this. And I said, I sure do. And it was great. Then another time, I met Mae Questel, and we went out to dinner after some event, and I was asking her about all the people that she worked with. And she said that she was in a lot more of Funny Girl, but Streisand cut her out. And it also happened, she was also in a Jerry Lewis picture. I forget which one. It might have been Disorderly Orderly. And she also said that her part was much bigger in the shooting than the final release. Yeah, she was a trip.
So some nice feedback here from the folks on Zoom that the hybrid program worked perfectly coming through on Zoom. So we're very happy to hear that. Another question is, there is a Betty Boop show on Roku. I found it a few weeks ago, possibly on Peacock, but on the Express Roku platform. Are you familiar with that at all?
I saw something on Tubi yesterday, Tubi, but I didn't watch it. but it said, well, actually, and I think it's the vintage cartoons because the date associated with it was 1931, which would be just about right, just about the time that Betty started.
Bob, just out of curiosity, when it came to all the work that Dad did with the studios, that was all, we should let folks know, that was all works for hire. There weren't residuals or things.
There are no residuals for any of this. This was all work for hire. Those contracts, no, they didn't own this. He thought at one point that because of Pudgy and something in that Max Fleischer had stated, Max Fleischer actually had to, I forget what it was for, some sort of copyright trial or something. And he said the main creators of Betty Boop were, he said, the animators who did the most for Betty Boop were Grim Natwick, who basically created Betty, Myron Waldman, and it might have been Willard Bowski. Might have been. But yeah, so he thought, based on that, he might have been able to, if he wanted to, he always talked about, I should talk to your entertainment attorney and see if I have any, rights to get some sort of residuals for it after the fact. Yeah.
Another question and comment. What a great presentation. Besides the great animation, all the shows were so clever, too. I noticed Wantagh turkey on your mother's New Year's menu. Did you grow up in Wantagh?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Good detective
but
work.
My favorite thing on the menu is kreplach a la Clara. My grandmother made the best fried kreplach. Oh. Yeah, near Jones Beach. We call the gateway to Jones Beach. Yep.
Another question related to Walt Disney. Did your family ever go to Disneyland? I only learned about Disney being anti-Semitic a few years ago, and it was upsetting to hear it.
Yes. I've been to Disneyland, let's see, 1978, 1979, Disney World 2001, Disneyland, the last time was with my daughters, 2007, and I spent 5 weeks at Disneyland Paris because I wrote the grand opening special for Disneyland Paris in 1992. And by that time, the Disney studio was mostly run by people like Michael Eisner, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and so it had become, totally different leadership than when it was Disney Studios. Yeah, Dad didn't. I don't think he would have worked for him even if he wasn't anti-Semitic. He heard a story where Disney had gone into one of the animation rooms at the studio, at his studio. He looked at one animator's work, and the way you test a scene before it's put on what they call a pencil test is you just flip it. You just flip the papers, and you will see the motion. Well, Disney didn't like what he saw, ripped it up, and threw it in the trash can. Now, that's about the worst insult you can give an animator who has spent hours, maybe days, maybe weeks working on this. Well, the animator just went ballistic. He took Disney by the scruff of his neck, ran him all the way in, and threw him out of the animation office. I don't know whether this guy was fired, but my dad was always so happy that somebody had told Disney off like that one of the animators had done that.
Another comment, excellent program, hybrid format worked perfectly. I'm going to try to see if we can have folks who want to have their hands raised on Zoom to ask a question. I'm going to just get through a couple more here. Mm-hmm. The menu of dinner your dad drew was fabulous. Was your mom as talented with cooking as he was with cartooning?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mom taught gourmet cooking all over Nassau County. She taught at continuing ed at Roslyn Public Schools. She taught at Roslyn High School. She taught a course for kids at the Wantagh Junior High, Wantagh Middle School. She did lessons at Plainview Y, Macy's, Bloomingdale's in Garden City, Lawrence. So she was a great cook. My God, she was a great cook. In fact, when she passed away last year, my brother and I put together for our family and friends a PDF cookbook called Welcome to Rosalie's Kitchen, featuring her best recipes, because we found them all. She printed them out for her classes, so we pulled together classics. It's about, I think the book is about 90 pages of recipes, plus cartoons by my dad. Yep.
It sounds like there's a Waldman family biography. Enough material, certainly.
The whole family. My dad sort of started it off, but there's quite a few Waldmans who got into the arts or media. His niece Selma was so inspired by him that she became an artist. And then my cousin Martin, he went to work for WNYC Radio after he graduated. He was in the first class of television majors at NYU, 1948. And he went into the business too, then he went into advertising, then public relations. His son Michael became chief speechwriter for Bill Clinton. And Michael's brother Stephen became an author. He was first a reporter for Newsweek, among other places. And then my other cousin was PR at Seton Hall University for the baseball team, I believe. And then my cousin Richie works for PBS in Atlanta. So Dad started something.
Certainly did. Very talented family. So I'm going to give this a try here. So Janet, I saw that you that had your hand raised before.
Can we hear her over the...
And Ron, I think you had your hand raised before, so you should be able to unmute now, Ron. Let's see if we can hear you.
Okay, yes, this is Ron. Fascinating presentation. I remember going to the movie theater and watching cartoons at the beginning of the feature film, and they were very entertaining. But what I have discovered lately is schools of theology, departments of religion are exploring the hero motif in a lot of the cartoons, whether it is Superman, the Kung Fu movies, Spider-Man. In fact, I have 3 books right in front of me. One is the Theology and the Marvel Universe. Another one is Theology and Game of Thrones. Theology and Pop Culture, Theology and Spider-Man. And so this linking of the Messiah myth, the hero myth, the Deus Ex Machina myth are very much part of the cartoon genre, the cartoon style of sort of presenting the Messiah myth in a very modern guise. And I was wondering whether you take that seriously, or your father realized that maybe there was more to what he was doing than just entertainment.
I don't think Dad did. I'm not sure I do either, but no, but Dad, Dad wanted always, this is maybe going off the point a little bit, but Dad always wanted to be more than just another animator. He was an artist. He was always like he did the book Eve, because he wanted to do more than just be an animator. And I think possibly being a head animator was a huge, huge step for him in that it realized, wow, I really am good. Now, he wouldn't say that, or he sort of did. No, I don't know if it's a messiah, but I will say this. I think at the worst part of my dad's life, at one of the most tragic things that happened to the family, I think animation probably saved him from just being so grief-stricken. What happened was, in 1937, when he was doing Educated Fish and some of those other cartoons that year, his sister died. And she was only 26. And to me, it would have been just so crushing. At first I said, I can't believe he was drawing, fish and little bears and stuff. And then I realized it was so different than what was happening in his real life that it probably was therapeutic. So maybe in a way, not that he knew it, Ron, but animation was, in general, was a messiah for him, and really, helped his and the whole family get over it, because only a year after his sister died, they had to move. They moved out of Brooklyn, where it happened, and so they're in Miami. So animation in itself was a savior for the entire family.
Wow. Well, thank you for that question, Ron. And Judy, I see you have your hand raised. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi there.
Hi.
Something just clicked in my head. I took cooking lessons from Rosalie.
Oh, that's great, Judy.
I realized that it was the same, and I still have her recipes. We brought her into Temple Beth Elohim Sisterhood to give us lessons on Passover cooking.
Wow.
And I still have her recipes downstairs in my loose leaf.
Oh, that's it. Now,
I say downstairs because I have a three-story house. The downstairs is the kitchen. I still have them. I mean,
wow.
If you need some recipes for your book, I have them. But
that's wild. Now, which temple was that, and where is it, Judy?
Temple Beth Elohim in Old Bethpage.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool.
I think it's a Chinese church now,
but... Well, Mom could have done recipes for them.
And at the Plainview Y also.
Wow. Wow.
But this was a wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
If you're interested in Ron Brown's religious references, he lectures on religions of the world all over the place.
Yes. Well, I'm usually Ron's media tech when he's doing his presentations here.
How many, I know this is a crazy question, how many drawings do you think it took to produce 1 minute of a film? Because I knew they used to do every single motion.
1 minute. 30 frames per second. Yeah, but what they would do, Tony, was they would stay on one picture for 30 frames.
Yeah.
I would say it had to be a couple hundred.
Yeah. I don't think most of us realize.
Thousands. And one of the most frightening things that ever happened to my dad, he had finished a cartoon. And by the 60s, he was working at home a lot, because he had a studio in the basement where he would work. And he's going into the city, and what he would do is he'd bring all his drawings in to the studio where they had the animation camera and all that stuff. And he would tape up, it would be in news print paper, and he would bring it in. He gets into the city and he realizes he's left the entire package on the train. He says, he would say, I almost had a heart attack. Fortunately, the conductor, he was able to track down the conductor who had it, and he was so relieved. And somewhere there is a probably retired Long Island Railroad conductor who has an original drawing made by my dad in thanks of whatever his favorite cartoon character was.
That's a great story. Just going to get back to the...
You're welcome.
Thanks, Judy. chat here. There's a couple more. Someone says, I would buy your mom's cookbook. Consider publishing it. And a last question, I think, here. Just curious, did cartooning all those years have any hindrance on his hand health or eye health?
No. No. Although he didn't wear glasses until he started, until the 1930s, when he was working in, basically, you see how dark it is around here? That's how dark it is in an animation studio, except for a light over, a gooseneck lamp over the animation desk, and a fluorescent light that's shining up from the desk itself, so that way the animator can see the drawings underneath the ones he's working on, so he can see if he's got the proper sequence. It's funny that it mentioned the hands. When my dad passed away, the last day, his last day, just a couple hours before he died, all of a sudden we see that his hands, he's got one hand like this and another hand like this. He was unconscious, but he was obviously in his mind drawing. And his hands looked beautiful. They hadn't looked so great earlier in the week, but those last few hours, all of a sudden, it was just, you could see that he was drawing into the next world.
Wow. Well, I think that might be a good note to wrap up on. I want to thank, again, everybody here for... Oh, we have one more question?
One more question.
Okay.
Cartoons, and you ever heard of Farmer Gray, which was really alfalfa? You ever heard that name, Paul?
Oh my God, we watched them all the time when we were kids. It would be like you'd have the test pattern in the morning in the 50s, and then the first thing that would come on in the morning would be the Farmer Alfalfa cartoons.
Hey, they only show like about 12. They don't have all the cartoons that were made at the moment on the laptop. How come?
Well, I would think a lot of them are probably just vanished. I mean, if you go to YouTube, I bet you'll find a lot more. And the other thing is, those cartoons were silent too, and then they put music to them later on. But I really don't know. I have the Terrytoon cartoons, except for Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll, they're not as, you don't see as many toys or anything. You'll see the vintage stuff, but it's like Betty Boop. You want to see a lot of Betty Boop stuff, you got to go over to Tony's house. Because Tony's mother's name is Betty, and she loves Betty Boop. And so they have tons of, right, Tony? They have tons of Betty Boop stuff. So there still is a lot of Betty Boop. So many things are still being done with Betty Boop. But you don't see, Farmer Alfalfa or, too much Heckle and Jekyll, or even Mighty Mouse of new stuff.
Well, Bob, terrific job today. Yes, that's another round of applause for Bob Waldman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank all of you out in Zoom land, those of you who were here in person. It's really terrific, and this is just the beginning. Starting Tuesday, we have Alice Schwartz back here at this podium for another hybrid program. So whether you're comfortable at home or here in person, we're certainly glad that you've been able to join us today. And my Tony and Brian, thank you so much for your help today. And again, most thanks to you, Bob, for sharing your dad's story, some of his wonderful work, and I know I enjoyed it immensely. So thank you very much.
And thank you for honoring me by letting me be the first of the hybrid presentations, the hybrid sandwiched ins.
Yep, that'll go down in the books.
And if Mom were still with us, as I said earlier, she would have catered. We would have had cookies and brownies and all sorts of stuff. And her great chopped liver, too.
Great.